She was the richest woman in the city, and she knelt on a dusty road to ask a homeless man a question few would dare. What he answered that day changed both of them forever. The sun hung low when a black car eased to a stop outside a small market. People looked up because she stepped out with a calm that made them stare. Zara Adiemi wore a cream jumpsuit and heels that clicked on the pavement. She looked like the kind of person who belonged in magazines. Still, she walked across the street and stopped by a man who sat on a crate wrapped in a worn coat. He looked like he had lived many winters. His beard was wild, his hair tangled, and a battered bag rested on his knees. When she spoke, he blinked as if the light had come back. "My name is Daniel," he said. The crowd shuffled. No one expected the city's most admired founder to talk to someone so invisible. "I've seen you here," Zara said softly. "You speak like someone who understands numbers. I don't know your story, but I see a sharp mind. I think you need a second chance." Daniel stared, unsure. Then she surprised him and everyone else. "Will you marry me?" she asked. Silence fell. Daniel could not tell if it was a trick or truth. He looked into her face, searching. "If you truly mean it," he answered slowly, "go buy a ring, come back, kneel, and ask me like you mean it." The crowd murmured. Zara smiled and walked into the shop. 5 minutes later, she was back with a small box that made people gasp. She knelt, and with steady eyes she asked Daniel Okoro, "Will you marry me?" People pulled out phones. Some laughed, some cried. Daniel felt the world tilt. He nodded. "Yes," he whispered. She slipped the ring on his finger and said, "Get in the car." He paused, worrying he would soil the leather with his mud-stained trousers. Zara only said, "I don't care." He rose, as if waking from a long sleep, and climbed into a life he had stopped believing in. The car hummed through the city. Daniel clutched his bag and watched towers blur. Zara drove him to a barber shop that shone like a palace. Hands washed and clipped and cleaned the years away. His beard fell to the floor. Someone handed him a mirror. He hardly recognized the man looking back, clean jaw, bright eyes, a stranger with new dignity. They pulled into Zara's compound, where a white mansion stood behind tall glass. A little girl with messy curls rubbed her eyes and asked, "Who is that, Mommy?" Zara opened her arms. "Lena, meet Daniel. He will be staying with us." Lena studied him as if testing him. "Are you a good person?" she asked. Daniel laughed, a small, honest sound. "I am trying to be." Lena nodded and said he could stay. But no scary stories at night. That night, he ate a real meal after years and slept on soft sheets. On the balcony, they watched the city lights. Zara asked him to tell his story. He spoke quietly of a life where he had built models, taught students, and worked with teams. He told her about the crash that took his family on a morning when a plane never returned. He had walked away from everything, and the weight of that loss had driven him into the shadows. Zara listened without pity. The next day she took him to work. She had not knelt on the street for show. She knelt because she saw someone whose mind still mattered. At her company, M-Tech, Daniel walked into a glass office labeled Head of Data Intelligence. He froze, then sat at 3 monitors and felt a part of himself unlock. At first, the work was hard. Tools had changed names and new systems replaced old ones. But instincts do not vanish. Within a week, he spotted patterns others missed. In a month, he proposed fixes that started saving the company both time and money. Zara watched him with quiet pride. He was returning to life in small, steady ways. Months passed. Daniel spoke at conferences, led teams, and mentored young analysts. Lena grew into a curious girl who loved science and drew plans for tiny robots. Zara laughed more and began to leave the office earlier. Evenings on the balcony turned into the most ordinary treasures. Soup simmering on the stove, small hands tugging at sleeves, late-night talks about which tomorrow to chase. One rainy night, Daniel stood and reached into his pocket. He knelt on Zara's rooftop and held out a simple band. "You brought me back," he said. "You gave me a reason to live again. Will you marry me? Properly?" Tears rolled down her face as she nodded. The house filled with soft clapping and a child's squeal. They chose to do more than live well. Together they started a foundation to give others second chances. A campus rose where a busy market once stood. Dorms, classrooms, computer labs, and spaces for young people to build and sell ideas. Men and women who once begged now learned design and coding. Mothers taught others how to run small businesses online. The place became less charity and more justice, a steady bridge to dignity. Word of their story spread. People loved the image of a woman who knelt and a man who rose. Yet the part Zara and Daniel held closest were small and private. Warm porridge shared at dawn, a child's first success, the quiet pride of a person who finally found work that matters. Lena grew, studied medicine, and later met Emeka, a kind young engineer who admired her at a conference. The wedding was a family celebration full of old friends and new beginnings. Daniel gave a toast that made half the hall cry when he said he had once been invisible to the world and now stood where he belonged. The foundation grew beyond their city. Graduates launched startups, teachers opened schools, and the campus became a model for places that lift people by teaching useful skills. Zara and Daniel spoke at conferences about technology and second chances, but most nights they preferred the balcony with Lena and their small, curious boy Eli, who loved to tinker with simple apps. Years added silver to their hair and soft lines to their faces. They sat in a garden where children from their foundation chased butterflies and tapped on tablets. "I am full," Daniel said one morning, warmth in his voice. "Me too," Zara answered. The life they had rebuilt, family, work, meaning, sat around them like proof. Daniel sometimes woke at night and sat on the bed, feeling old ache. He kept a notebook with ideas, sketches for simple apps to help market sellers track customers, notes about teaching a child to add, and reminders of kindness. Zara found the notebook and read it. She smiled at a drawing of an app made of pictures so anyone could learn. At the foundation, classrooms filled with people wanting a second chance. A woman who once sold water taught basic coding. A young man who collected trash learned to repair phones and opened a shop that paid his brother's school fees. These changes were quiet, but they multiplied. Each graduate who left with a certificate and a microloan lit hope in a family. People from M-Tech helped. Engineers taught on weekends. Designers built a simple learning site. A local bank offered microloans. The goal was not to make people rich overnight, but to restore dignity through steady, useful work. After a graduation, Daniel handed Lena his notebook. "If you feel small, read this," he said. "Ideas can come from anywhere." She hugged him tightly. When asked why she had stopped, Zara said she had seen a mind that was only unnoticed. Daniel would say being forgotten sometimes meant the world was preparing you. Small, kind acts, repeated over time, can remake a life. In the end, the smallest truths mattered most. Kindness that does not demand praise, work that restores pride, and children who grow up knowing their parents chose love over fear. Hold on to hope. Second chances often come late, but when they come, they can remake everything. Share this story with someone who needs to believe a life can change. If this story moved you, do one simple thing right now. Share it with someone who needs to hear a reminder that hope still finds people, even when everything seems lost. Tap like if the moment when Zara knelt gave you chills. Leave a comment below and tell us which scene hit you hardest. Was it the street proposal, the first haircut, or the day Daniel stepped back into work? Your thoughts help shape the next story. If you want more tales like this, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next life-changing story. And if you're feeling generous, share the video on your timeline or send it to a friend privately, One share could be the second chance someone needs.